So the Labour Party has finally formulated a policy on gender recognition. It's decided that it is against gender self-identification, although it does want to kind of streamline the process by which someone who is born a man can legally become a woman. Now, Rakib, this issue has caused Labour a hell of a lot of trouble. Keir Starmer has constantly made a fool of himself by flitting from saying, women, it's wrong to say that only women have cervixes. Then he says that women can have penises, but 99.9% of them don't. And finally, this week, he's come out and said that a woman is an adult human female. Why has it been so painful? Why did it take him so long to get to that point and to just open the dictionary definition?
Mate, I've got no idea what's going on with the Labour Party sometimes. I really, really don't. But I know one thing, the Labour Party, it can't be both the political arm of Stonewall and the party of British Muslim traditionalists, put it that way. It's very, very difficult to reconcile those groups. I've been very disappointed by the radical transgenderism which has taken hold on the modern British left. Decidedly misogynistic in character. By the way, I think that the likes of Rosie Duffield has been treated terribly within her own political party. I think that what it really shows is how the Labour Party, in a sense, to too many people within it, are just fundamentally divorced from reality.
Yeah,
and I think that this is a step in the right direction. But for me, I just think just keep it simple. A woman is an adult human female. Just leave it at that, and I think that Labour should be really concerned that what took place before this, and I still want to see the party say that there's certain sensitive spaces which have to remain rigidly same-sex in nature. What I mean by that is the kind of places I'm referring to: rape crisis centres, domestic violence sanctuaries, public toilets, prisons as well. But what's really interesting now, it seems like there's a bit of friction between the National Party and Scottish Labour over this issue. But I really hope that the national leadership not just stays firm on their current position. I want to see them move to an even clearer position, because I still think this position is a bit murky in some places.
I think that's right. Yeah, it's talking about modernising gender recognition, the gender recognition process. So reducing the sort of medical requirements while keeping, so you have to see fewer doctors, for instance, but still they want to say gender dysphoria has to be a requirement. Annalise Dodds, for instance, says we will protect women's single-sex spaces. I mean, we'll see how long that lasts, I guess.
6 minutes.
Yeah. The thing that really has brought this to a head, and Keir Starmer has admitted this, the thing that seems to have changed their mind most is what happened in Scotland with Nicola Sturgeon and the disaster of male rapists appearing in women's prisons.
Female rapists, mate.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Please be respectful. She. Yes, look, exactly. And, it was quite... Annalise Dodds had a little bit of a dig and said, the only reason that the SNP did that is because they were trying to get one over on Westminster. It's like, no, they just drunk the Kool-Aid harder than you did, love.
Yeah.
Number one, let's be honest about it. And the whole Isla Bryson thing I thought was magnificently hilarious. Here you had a 2-time male rapist with a face tattoo reminiscent of Mike Tyson at his most mental, who suddenly identified as a woman because he bought a pair of pink leggings in Primark and found a blonde wig in a skip. And all of a sudden, that suddenly meant that he could then have access to a women's prison. It was so magnificently demented. It was beautiful. It highlighted how completely and utterly ludicrous the Scottish National Party is, and how actually, if you don't know what a woman is, right, and if you ask that question to a politician and they are unable to answer you, how are they going to run the NHS? How are they going to run the Home Office? How are they going to run the country? They can't. They can't even say to a rapist, mate, you're not allowed in a women's prison.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
It used to be...
And she had a crap haircut.
I mean, it used to be the case that you'd ask a politician what the price of a pint of milk was to sort of catch them as out of touch. Now you ask them, can a woman have a penis? And you just watch them freak out because they know that, they can't say no, the common sense answer that the public wants to hear, because that'll offend the trans activists.
Yeah.
But they also know that they can't.
Because women can have wangs, mate.
But they also know they can't just say, well, a woman is anyone who decides, because that is, mental, and will alienate the whole public. So you get this kind of Keir Starmer compromise of 99.9% of women not having penises, and therefore 1 in 1,000 women walking around with giant willies. But what is striking is how the extent to which the political class has really bought into this idea, Rakib. I mean, you get the sense that Labour's new policy that it's released is kind of coming out through gritted teeth. It's like they've crashed into reality a little bit, but it's probably not where they'd like to be. Why have they bought into it so much?
I think that within the parliamentary party, there's a lot of younger MPs who I suspect that they were socialised on campuses and bought into these kind of radical identitarian ideas, which completely go against scientific reality. And I think there's just a view as well that they treat the LGBT community as some kind of homogenous whole, which is simply not the case.
Yeah.
And I think there's a tendency within the Labour Party. They did it a bit with BAME, the BAME acronym as well. They're just like putting together quite different groups and saying, oh, this is a victimised bloc. Well, they don't say bloc, they perceive it to be a bloc. But this is a victimised group which needs our allyship. They don't understand the diversity within those acronyms. And they just do it as a way to just appear very virtuous and fashionable. But in this case, what they've actually done, in my view, they've probably alienated a lot of ordinary women who feel that there's a cultural erasure of women. Things such as breastfeeding being replaced with chest feeding. Using terms like bleeders.
Bonus hole.
Women who have I find it actually grossly offensive towards women. That's the truth of it. And Labour need to put a stop to it, because I think that there's, many of those women, I think it's an issue that's very important to them. And if Labour don't strike a common sense position, they could alienate many voters who they'd probably consider Labour to be their natural party.
And finally, let's talk a bit about the TERFs, the trans exclusionary radical feminists, or gender critical feminists, whatever you want to call them. Before now, if one of those women had said what Keir Starmer said this week, a woman is an adult human female, they would be rained down on like a ton of bricks. They would have been cancelled, they would have been shamed, they would have been smeared. But now it's okay to say that women are women, men are men.
Well, I think it's because we had that watershed moment with Isla Bryson, where suddenly we kind of woke up and realised that the real world isn't a gender studies class in some 2-bit university in a crap town in the UK. So people have actually realised that there's very real world consequences to this. And the SNP have paid the price as a result. And what Labour have done is they've seen the way the SNP have gone all the way down this rabbit hole. They realise they can't go all the way down there, but they don't want to appear to be bigoted, because what people on the left fear more than anything else is their friends being nasty to them. So they've come up with this fudge, which is the exact same thing they did with Brexit. Do you remember the demented Corbyn idea of Brexit, of how they were going to honour the Brexit vote?
And have another referendum, but we'll campaign against Brexit, but we'll implement. I don't think anyone understood it. It just it was out of the room.
It was like you got Christopher Nolan to direct Brexit. No one understood what was going on, mate. Yeah, and this is the Labour Party all over. They're so terrified of appearing bigoted or having some kind of view that might offend people that they just do terrible fudge after terrible fudge after terrible fudge.